All right, hello everyone and good morning. Happy Tuesday. Welcome back for another art and nature drawing lesson, painting lesson today with artist and naturalist Edward Rooks. We're back again today in the heart of the North Coyote Conservation Area. We also call it Laguna Seca Seasonal Wetland. Right now it looks a little dry, that's what makes it a seasonal wetland, but it's still just as important for local ecology. So that is all the amazing birds, plants, reptiles, mammals, and people like you and me that can enjoy this beautiful and newly protected natural area. Today we're actually going to be talking about birds, and we're going to be drawing and painting birds, specifically the yellow-billed magpie, which is a really interesting bird that's only native to different parts of California, specifically this part of California, and Edward, I know, is going to go into that a little bit more. It looks like the weather's cooperating with us today. That's why we're back outdoors. You can enjoy the bird song and the beautiful scenery. There's a little bit of a wind picking up, so we're going to try to make sure that we're good with the mics. If you have any issues with the sound quality, just let us know and we can move things around. But with that, I think we're just going to jump right into the lesson, and thanks again for tuning in today. Right.
Okay. Hi everyone. So we are going to be painting a yellow-billed magpie. I did this painting yesterday, and it is the only endemic bird in California. It's found nowhere else in the world. It's related to the black-billed magpie that you'll find in Europe and across the northern part of the world. But I did this painting as well yesterday, and this is what I'm going to be doing today. So these two, a portrait and then the bird in flight. This area in Laguna Seca has a grassland with valley oaks. So the tree above us here is a valley oak, and that's where these birds nest. That's why I chose this bird. It's a very special bird, being endemic, which means that it's only found here. But it's also a beautiful bird, and it's a bird that's a part of this ecosystem. It evolved here with these valley oak trees in the grasslands of California, where it sort of vies for the resources against the ranchers who also like this sort of area for their cattle. So there's some issues, some problems with the bird and people, a history of poisonings and wiping them out. And they used to be up in the San Francisco Bay, around the San Francisco Bay, closer to the bay, but they're not there anymore. They've been wiped out completely. So it's very important to have that bird protected here in Laguna Seca. Okay, so with that, we're going to do the portrait first. So I have a reference photograph that I used to do that painting. There's a photograph that I got of one flying in Coyote Valley, just down the road here, just a couple miles away.
And it looks like a couple people are having trouble with audio, but some are okay, so let us know how that's going.
I can put the mic on my collar.
There's a difference when Edward clips it, let us know.
I will.
Oh, Catherine says audio's okay? Alright.
Okay. I'll clip it to the mask that I'm not using at the moment. So the thing about the bird is that it looks black and white when you see it in the field, but when it gets sunlight on it, it becomes very colorful. It has iridescent coloring, and mostly blues, but some purple and green in the tail. Sometimes the tail looks completely green, sometimes purple. Definitely purple around the edges, and in the middle here it can be quite green or blue. So iridescence is one of those complicating factors, but we'll just treat it as a beauty, a color that we'll use in painting. So let me see if I can dig out that photograph that I had as reference. It was at the top. I'll move things around a bit. If I don't find it offhand, I will go straight to using my... I must have removed it from the pad, so I'll just use my painting. I can clip that over here. It's easy anyway. I know how to draw it. So I'm going to draw with pencil and paint with watercolor paints. So what I want to do is figure out how am I going to frame this bird in here, and I want to have the head up towards the middle, and then the beak going off to the right to where the right third would be, and then on the left here I'll have the shoulder on the left thirds. So here above the middle line, the head's going to be in the middle of the painting like this, an oval that isn't too big, okay, and that's the skull. That represents the skull, leaving room over here for the beak. You don't want to have it too close to the edge, but a beak is about as wide as a head, so a beak will go to about here. I'm going to make this oval a little smaller so that it isn't too big. The beak is quite large, and it's going to be right across the middle like this, an oval like that. Okay, and so this is the skull, and then you have a forehead coming down into the beak, a throat coming up into the beak, and the body oval is going to be in this corner over here, maybe under the head a little more. So you have from the throat here, you're going to have this sort of thing coming into the chest. Make sure the chest bulges out. And then coming from the back of the skull, make sure you have that spine coming out of the back and then down into the bird, so that you have the feathers coming up like that. So you have a nice large back, something like that. Can you see that all right?
Janice says she's having trouble seeing the pencil lines. Let's see if anyone else can see them, and Edward, I know, will go over them a little heavier too.
All right, I will darken those up. If Janice is having trouble, that's an important issue. All right, so there it is. I wonder what happened to my photograph. I had it there. And it was important because it has some important details. I'm going to just give it one last look for it. So the next thing to do is to put that center line down the middle of the head. You have the center line for the beak. You have a center line for the eye. And the eye is going to be up in this area here. So around it, there's going to be some yellow of the eye ring. And then the black feathers will be in this area here. And underneath here, that's going to be part of the eye ring. And also, this will also be the lip of the beak. Then this will be black feathers down here underneath the chin. Now I'm going to just maybe thicken up that neck a little bit. That looks okay. It's a little bit heavy on the beak, so I'm going to make that thinner. And then there's a tooth at the end, a little bit of a tooth there, like that. So there's my eye. I'm going to flatten the top of the eye a little bit, and then you're going to have the pupil in the middle of the eye like that. Now the feather groupings would be a mustache coming off of the lower part of the mandible here. And then you're going to have a cheek patch under the eye, like that. And then you'll have this, it will be the crown. So the feathers are going to be coming back and down like this. So the feathers will be coming out like that. And all of this, the feathers will be going down and then out underneath the throat like that. Okay, so I'm going to check again for that photograph one last time. There it is. Ta-da!
All right.
Okay, so that's better for me to have that. Much more accurate than my painting. All right, so I'll just put that here for now. I think I have to level off the back a little bit. I've bulged the back out a little too much, and so there's more of a mantle up here like that, and then the breast is going to go downwards. It's fatter at the base of the neck, fatter at the back of the neck, so make sure that you have it getting wider as it goes back. So something like that. And I've roughed it in. It's very messy, but I needed you to see it. So I'm just going to try to lighten that up a bit before I start painting, get rid of some of my guidelines. And I've got my black pearl eraser, trusty black pearl. which will get rid of most of those pencil lines, because that'll show through my watercolors, and I just want to have a guide that I can follow with my paints.
Jeffrey, I think he joined a little late. He's asking what species is this? This is the Yellow-billed Magpie.
Now, hi Jeffrey. So here is where the neck meets the body. This will be where the wing is. This is a wing coming in here, and there's the breast of the bird there. Okay, so that we have some white markings on the back of the shoulder here. It's going to be white coming around the wing like this, and then the chest is going to be dark there like that. So there'll be some white down in here. I've got some tape around the edge of my pad here, and I'm not as happy with this spacing as I should be, but it's okay. Looks pretty good. I wish I had more chest, but I don't. So there it is. Not a big deal. And I'm going to bring that head back a tad there. I'm just trying to match what I see here. The head comes back quite a bit down the back of the neck. Okay, so, but I got all of my elements in there. The head and the beak are the same relative sizing. It's a very big eye, and it's got a little bit of what looks like eyelashes that we can put little feather groups up there like that. Beauty spots. Okay, and I'm going to make sure that the feathering is textured on the top of the head when I put down the paint underneath the throat here. That's the direction that the feathering will go in. Okay, so there's the texture. The gape of the beak is going to be down the middle of the beak and down to the tooth. So now that I have my rough lines in there, I can start to put down more accurate lines. The base of the mandible comes up from the throat feathers. The throat feathers here come down like that and go underneath a flattened part of the beak. The lip comes back underneath the eye, but just to the middle of the eye, not any further than that. That's going to be a yellow lip area right there. That's the lip where the gape of the beak starts, and it comes down like that. Again, the eye is flat on top, very rounded on the sides here. This is the middle of the eye here, the corners of the eye, rounded like that. And then we'll have some skin folds, yellow skin folds. I'm going to show you the group that this bird belongs to. I don't know if you can see that well. Mm-hmm. These are corvids. So the crow that we see around our backyard all the time, that's the family it belongs to. You got ravens, crows, you got jays, the scrub jay in this area, very common around San Jose where we are. And then in the forest, in the trees around here, you're going to have Stella's jay, which is like the blue jay of the east, but with a black head, blue body. And then in the mountains of the Sierras, you'll find nutcrackers. Nutcrackers are very famous for burying seeds, as are jays. And they actually are responsible for the makeup of some forests. They are responsible for seeding entire areas of woodlands and forests up in the hills, especially pines. You got the pinyon jay here, and again another one that's very important in the Sierras. And they group up in groups, so they're social. A lot of these birds, crows are social, jays are social, magpies are social. Okay, they are sturdy, they are songbirds, they can be predatory, but you know they have a bad reputation because of that. They are very important for the ecosystem. All right, so with that, we'll get back to our painting, and I'll get back to my reference page. So we're going to lay are you seeing this okay? Mm-hmm. We're going to lay this painting down. Now right over the nose here, you can't see many birds, especially songbirds, you'll see a nostril here, but it's hidden under this group of feathers on the beak here. So we'll make sure that's in there like that. Okay, so that's pretty good. I'm going to bring the back up a little bit further. I like that better. All right, now let's get started painting. We're going to flatten this down. And Anna Marie's going to change the camera angle.
Move around a little bit. Perfect.
You see that all right? Good, and I'll put the reference there. Oh, I reversed the bird without even thinking. That's funny. All right, so now with watercolors, you want to start big and work down, and you want to start light and work to the darks, okay? So in this bird, the dominant color in the black on the head area is going to be purple. And on the wing area, it's going to be a blue, a background of blue with a touch of purple in it. That iridescence is tricky, so the different light, different colors, okay? So we can put a sort of a complementary color in the background as is in the photograph. So you can put some sort of a green background. I might start light and just sort of put a green background with a big brush. Getting lighter as I go down the page around the bird. Just applying some water really to the background and just to give it some color. You can leave it sort of sketchy. It's more interesting that way. And then in places, you can come back in, charge your brush. Charging your brush means putting a lot of water in a pool in your palette, and then you come back in here and add a lot of pigment to it. So you got a fair amount of pigment in your paint. I'm going to just sort of suggest leaves. And you can mix it up. So I can add a little yellow in places just to make it more interesting. And let that watercolor soak in, and it'll just blur those edges and it'll look like light and dark, right? So that's just the fun of it, making it more watercolory. I got a boo-boo there that lifts off with a little rag. Now when I want to do that color on the back there, let that dry a bit, and then I can come in and mix some purple. So I'm going to mix some alizarin crimson with a cerulean blue, or a cobalt blue would work too. Maybe I'll put some cobalt, make it bluer, because that purple on that coat is quite blue. And I'm just going to lay down. I'm not going to be patient enough to wait for that to dry. And to start to lay down some color. Let me get my photograph going here again. There we go.
It's that South County breeze picking up.
Yeah, it requires clipping. And so I can then come around. I don't want that to run, so I'm just going to leave a white area around that. I got to put my glasses on so I can see what I'm doing. Alright, so I need to leave a bit of a yellow right there like that. That's pretty white enough there, and I'm going to come back around the eye now, and that's probably good enough for that area there, and down the cheek to the lips, and then it actually cuts in somewhere here like that. Cut that in there, and then it cuts back in right here like this, and then under the throat. Oh, there's the accident that I was trying to avoid. Okay, fixed. Now keep wide if I can to avoid that happening again, and wait for that to dry before I get that close again. Coming down, So there we, oh, it's running up the top.
Got a little bloom.
My impatience. It just takes a while for watercolors to dry, so I really should be more patient, but I have to do 2 paintings in an hour, so I can't afford to be patient. I'm going to run down the back here. That's going to run there too, so it's thinner paint though, won't run too much. Look at that, bursts forth. It's running down before I can see it, and then the black comes down the chest like this. So I'm just mapping out, I'm just sort of filling in the spaces with a color. I like that the purple changes from a blue purple up at the head there and gets lighter towards the chest. That's fine. Now I'm going to switch up and do the wings, and the wings are more blue as the base color. So remember, we're doing light colors, and then we'll build up the shadows. We'll build up the blacks on top of that. You can do yellow first. You can do whatever you want as far as which color you want to start with, but I'm just sort of mapping out the base, the lights. Okay, so there's the wing. Now I'm going to switch to a cleaner water so that I have 2 things of water here so that I can use clean water when I need to. And I'm going to switch to the yellows on the beak. I don't want it to be too wet because it's going to run like that purple did down to the tip of the beak there. Yellow around the eye here. There's the lip. So we're getting a good sort of idea of where the bird's large color parts are. And in the white areas, we can erase the lines that we've drawn on there, but we want to use a light blue or a light purple for our shadows. And I'm looking at my photograph and I can see that the shadow under the wing is actually just a light blue, so a very light wash of blue like that. So just sort of create that feather detail. You can create some of those feathery effects using a light wash of blue. Okay, now the eye itself is pretty black in the photograph. You can start with a sort of a rusty brown, like a burnt sienna or burnt umber best, because it's quite dark. And I'll start with my burnt umber and maybe a little purple or something to darken it up. But these are the lights, so we're going to start the light. Something like that. And then let that dry in the wind. So that then we can put on our darker darks. And these lights will show through. Well, that's a good start.
Yeah.
Maybe we could start on the other one while this one is drying.
That's a good idea.
Okay, so I'm going to bring out the other pad and we're going to start on the other. I don't have any real reference for this. The reference for this was actually a combination of different things. You can see I used the blues and the purples, kept it very simple. And the green tail with the blue, that could be purple at the edges there, but in the image that I used for the tail reference, it was quite blue at the tips of the tail. The reference I used to get that drawing was a combination of 2 images, but mostly this one, which is a very simple illustration. Okay, that was very pixelated, and then I had it combined with another image like that. That's a yellow-billed magpie. That's a black-billed magpie, the more common version. You'll find this in California too, but on the other side of the Sierra Range. This is the one you'll find in the valleys from the San Joaquin to the San Francisco and here in the Coyote Valley. All right, so that's the reference We could use these, but what you can see here is the shape of that tail. It's a very beautiful tail. It's a diamond-shaped tail. It's longest in the middle, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 feathers on either side. Shortest near the body there. And where is that widest? Where is that tail widest? Well, in this case, the tail is coming towards us, so it's foreshortened, but it's more towards the middle of the tail, okay? So we're going to do that, and that's what I tried to get in these. How long is that tail? Well, it's about the same length as from the rump to the tip of the beak. So from here to here should be from here to here. And that's the first key thing. And look at this. It's the same as the length of a wing. Okay? So that's the constant. That's our measure. One body length, tip of the beak to the tip of the rump, is about the same length as the tail and a wing. Okay? Otherwise, it's pretty much just a cross, but the head sticks out halfway along his body length. So let's say that's a body length. Half of that is head and half is body. Okay, so there's the shoulder. These are the key sort of measures I look for when I'm looking at a bird. The wings come forward. They're not just straight across. They come forward a little bit. Okay, so these are important parts of the gesture. You can see how far forward the wings do go. Okay, and if you do that wrong and make it too straight, it's not going to look as quite like the gesture of a magpie. Okay, so let's go with that. I'm going to grab another pad.
Oh, I think we're a little twisted around. Oh my gosh.
Did I untie it?
You got it.
You got it?
We had to untangle Edward from the microphone so that he could go grab his other art pad.
All right. Well, that one's pretty well dried in all that chat though. No, it's not dry yet. Put that over here. Ta-da! New pad. You want to set it up so that we can draw?
That sounds great. Here's your microphone back.
I will try to clip that on in a better manner now, so it's not gonna get so tangled. Okay. Bring this up. Grab a pencil. So we're going to fit this bird, get the wings and the body. So you don't want the bird to be too big. You want it to be about that big, so you'll have some little space there. And you want the tail to end there, so you have some space here as well. So that's about as big as my bird is going to be. That'll allow me the wings coming out. You just can't make that body too big. So there's the body and head should be about that big, which means the body is going to be something like that. Okay, head oval, beak. Can you see that?
It's a little light on my end, so it'll probably be a little bit lighter on the viewer's end.
All right, so I'm going to darken that up in a second. It's going to.
And PJ says, "Wow, my sketched magpie actually looks like a bird." Good job, PJ. That's awesome.
Fantastic.
Feel free to share any of the art you make today just in a message to our Facebook page, the Santa Clara Valley Open Space Authority, and we'd love to look at what you did and share it with others if you feel comfortable.
How's that?
Much better.
And that line's coming straight out like that. How's that? That's the sort of thing. And again, these are rough lines. These are going to be perfected. It's just approximating what the bird's going to look like. And so there's my tail length, my wing length. Oh, too long. So that's how I judge. And having done it just very roughly, sketchily, allows me to then quickly erase, adjust and adapt. There's my body. And bring that head back a little bit. Maybe something like that. There's the tail. Oh, I can fit it. See that? So I know my wing's going to be here like this. Again, very rough. Putting it in. The diamond-shaped tail is going to be one body length behind to right here like this. So it's going to go in that direction. It's going to be widest in the middle, coming back to the body here like that. And that's approximately our bird. Okay? Now, we want to make sure that we have a shoulder, a neck going to the head, a throat coming in, and we're going to have that forehead coming down, leaving a knobbly head on top. Okay? And that beak is a little high. I'm going to bring that beak down a little bit. Anyhow, so that's roughly where it's going to go. We'll fix that all up in a minute. But we've got all the proportions right. Okay, that's very important. Leave your shoulder there. The wing comes off of the shoulder, not off of the neck. So we're just going to bring that shoulder in. And then we're going to bring a line straight out to the middle of the wing. A line straight out to the middle of the wing here. And then it's going to start back. So let me get my reference, which is all hidden away. Alright, something like this. So there's the shoulder. Okay, and then it comes out here towards the middle of the wing. That's what I mean by the middle of the wing, which is the hand, where the flight feathers come off. Okay, shoulder, out to the middle of the wing, and then out to the hand. I have another image here that I used, I think. It was that little black, yeah, there it is. That's what I'm trying to get at. So the hand is right there, in the middle of the wing. Then it comes down, and then back out to the feathers. So up to the hand, down, and then back out as the feather flares out. And it's pushing down and the feathers bending back. It looks prettier if you have that sort of shape to a feather. So that's my first feather. Now, here is the shape of a wing of a magpie. The wing tip is like this. The first feather comes off of the hand there, comes off of the hand here like this, and it's short. Now all the other feathers, 1, 2, 3, 4, fourth one being probably the longest actually. So I'm going to bring that up here like that, bring that back down. That's the shape of the wing. That is like fingers on a hawk's wing. That's the sort of shape we're looking for. Okay, you can see it here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 are the longest. So actually, you're going to have a fifth one here, and that's going to be quite long. And then it starts to become shorter again, radiating from the hand. So here's my hand. Here's my other hand. Half of the wing, these are the primary flight feathers. The longest will be the fourth, which is sort of and fifth, which are in the middle. And then they'll shorten up. So that's the sort of shape of the wing. That actually gets shorter, so maybe that feather can be smaller. And then we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, something like that. Okay, those are your feathers. And then from here, we have the coverts, the secondary coverts, primary coverts. These are small feathers on the wing that cover the flight feathers. And then there are about 9 or 10 feathers here, so you're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. This is the one feather we'll see the entire feather of. All of these other feathers are overlapping, underlapping. They're underneath that feather. Okay, so all of these feathers are now going like this.
Jeannie, can you see a little better now that he's gone over the sketch a little darker? Let us know how it looks as it starts to come together from your end.
And so this feather here, now these are going to get a little more of a long tip, as these feathers on the flight feather are narrower towards the tip here like that. Now I'll erase this. That was a mistake. Erase the guideline on the outside edge. And now I can actually start to see the bird taking shape. This is the flight feather.
And Jeannie can see the sketch. Yay, thank you.
Yay.
Feedback is really great for us to make sure we give you the best program that we can. So thank you for all the feedback.
Now my wing is too narrow here. So what I have to do is I have to bring that back out there like that. That feather here might be short, and then this one is longer, okay? But I can just make those adjustments to match my reference. Okay, these are quite wide wings on this bird, so we don't want to make it too narrow near the body. So I think that's better. Again, I will then erase my errors using my handy black pearl eraser. Now, the tail feathers. On the body of the bird here, you have an oval that's quite round, and over the rump of the bird, you have a group of feathers that are coverts, just like the coverts on the wing here, covering the flight feathers of the tail. So the coverts here on the rump come down just beyond the wing. It's impossible to see in this photograph. It's almost impossible to see even in this one, but actually in this one I can see the rump is right here. So the rump is literally no longer than the wing. So that's another important thing you have to work out when you're doing a painting of a bird. Where does the rump end relative to the end of the wing? They are in line in this case, okay? So you don't want that to go too far. There's my rump. And the importance of that is there's a color pattern associated with it. Half of the rump is black, and then right up here on this part of the rump there's a white band. Okay, so I can now put my white band in, limit where my iridescent tail is going to go, because that's going to be more of a black purple. This will be more of a green purple on my tail. And now I can then decide how wide my tail. I can actually fan my tail quite a bit, so I can then change my tail to go out further like this, and then down into the tip of the tail like that. And that's prettier, so I think I'll do that. The tail is quite long at the end. Now, tail feathers. The longest feathers on the tail, the center feathers. These feathers here are the ones that you see the entire feather of. One of these, there are two in the middle, and one of them is going to be on the top. Not sure if it's the left or the right, but I'll just make a choice. And anyhow, on either side, we're going to have five feathers on either side. So I want to make sure I got two here, and then two there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and then the center feathers. That one can be longer. So there it is. That's half the tail. And then on this side, just repeat.
And Jackie Uchiumi, I think that's how you say your last name. This is very helpful. I love seeing the proportions and technique. Thanks for the feedback, Jackie. That's great.
Thank you, Jackie. I'm glad you like it. It's taken me a lifetime to figure it all out with the help of others, including some wonderful artists that I've met in my early years, like Don Eckelberry from New York and Arthur Singer, who are illustrators, well-known illustrators. Now here we go. This one's going to come back here. Half the wing, the other half. Remember, the longest feathers are going to be on the middle feathers here, the 4th and 5th, these here, like that, okay? And then these here we can just sort of rough in, and then these here we're going to rough in. This is going to be our coverts. I'm going to make coverts bigger because the wing is closer, you're going to see more of the coverts. And then I'm going to rough in 4 feathers here. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. The whole feather, and then everything's underlapping, going out. Okay, so there it is. We've roughed in that. That wing looks a little big. I'll probably shorten that up in a minute, and then right now I just want to get to the head, get that done, and then we can move on to going back to our other painting and finish that painting, come back and finish this. Okay, so the neck is widest at the base, throat coming in underneath the beak. My beak is a bit big, and erase that line. The head bumps up on the skull, over the eye, comes back down, nice swooping line down to the tip of the beak where there's a bit of a tooth there. Heavy beak, but not too heavy. Something like that. It's starting to look like a... I'm going to shorten this bird up, this wing. Leave a little more space there, bring this... I like that better.
Jackie wants to know what size is the paper, like 11 by 14, something like that.
Oh, no, this is 12 by 16. So it's a little bit bigger than that. And there you go. There's a magpie, and we can put the eye in again. The guideline in the middle of the skull. There's my skull. Guideline in the middle of the skull. The eye goes right up here like that. Okay, that is important. If you don't use guidelines to figure out where the eye goes, it's going to be very easy to go wrong. This will guarantee you go right, and it'll help the beauty of the portrait. Okay, so we'll put this aside for now. We'll bring back out the portrait. Is that still fitting in the image?
Yeah.
It's all dry. It's got some issues, but that's sort of pretty. That's sketchy, so I don't mind having some issues. All right, so let's see if I can find my reference again. Talking about issues. There we go, in the middle. So that's what we're using. I'm going to clip that on up here. Hopefully that'll stay. Now, we need to darken. And of course, what's dark for yellow is going to be different from what's dark for purple, which is going to be different for what's dark for blue. You have a whole variety of different blues that can give you darks. So you have, there's my palette. I've got cobalt, cerulean is a lighter, prettier blue, and then I've got this almost black blue, Prussian blue, or it's like an indigo, all right? And I can use that as my shadow. For the yellows, you got lemon yellow, cadmium yellow, all right? And this is a dark cadmium yellow, or medium cadmium yellow. I've got yellow ochre. I can use the ochre for my shadows, or one of these pretty browns down here. It's sort of an Indian brown. Has a bit of a yellow tinge to it, which I like. I want the darks in the yellows to be orangey. I don't know if you can see that in there, but it's quite an orange color. So I'm going to add a little bit of red to my yellow shadows. Sort of mixing it up here, and you're going to start to see it. It's a little brown still, a little orangey brown. I can add a little more yellow to it, but that's the sort of color that a little bit of red. Just trying to get it to be sort of an orange color. There, a reddish orange. Oh, now I've added some wrong colors there. All right. Got a dirty palette. If I were at home, I could clean that up more easily, but I'm not. So there we go. I'll just use that. So I'm just going to rough in the shadow on the underside of the beak here. That's a little too dark. Take some of that out. There, like that. And now it's going from dark to light, which is nice. Similar thing there. See how it creates shadows, and yet it's a colorful shadow. So it's a pretty shadow. You don't want to just use black. You want to use another color, okay? And that's going to be what we use to do the wrinkles on the eye. It's a bit of an orangey color. Okay, I'm going to grab this so I don't make it too watery. I'm wiping that off a little bit. There we go. See that? These are the wrinkles under the eye. There's the lip. So I'm drawing, there's the gape of the mouth. Instead of using black, you use a pretty color like that. And that's a natural shadow of yellow. Now, the shadow of purple is going to be towards the blacks, but if you look at this photograph here, it's that indigo blue. So I'm going to use that indigo blue. I'm going to put some of that out. There's purple there, so this is the indigo blue. Does that show up?
Yes.
Oh, that's black. Yikes, I hit the black. There you go. That's the color I want to use. It's my shadow. Indigo, okay? Or Prussian blue. And you can draw with it. So I can draw the edge, feathery texture of the edge of this bird. It could have some light catching on it there like that, so that's fine. And then feathery textures going this way on the underside. But you see how that acts as a shadow and makes that purple look blacker? And then I'm putting feathery textures in here. Now it looks like feathers. Okay? So the shadow here is going to be the difference between the cheek, which is going to be from the lip, the gap of the lip here, coming down. This is all cheek, cheek coming around, and then this is going to be the crown of the head, and the feathers are falling this way, going up on top, straight down the side, and then down at the bottom, leaving that light purple as the highlights, iridescent highlights, okay? But some parts are going to be all dark. And you can just choose based on your image. And then on here, you're going to have a lot of dark on the cheek. I think I'll make the underside and the front of the cheek dark, and then towards the back here I can leave it a little lighter. And I'm just suggesting feather texture by leaving some streaks like that. The eye itself, I can use this indigo to outline the eye as a black. Underneath the lid is going to be the thickest line of shadow. There's the corner of the eye and the corner of the back of the eye, and then here underneath, and then the pupil leaving a highlight. Something like that. And I can blend that later, soften it up, but I want to have that light brown there, so it suggests that light, that brownish, that reddish color of the eye, okay? And then those little feathers that were like little eyelashes, it's just a touch of this indigo again. There you go, right? And then down here you have the mustache, which comes down like this, and then the throat, which comes down like this. These are the lines that I'm now drawing in to outline what are called feather tracks, the groupings of feathers on a bird. There's the throat or chin when it's underneath the beak like that, okay? The mustache comes from the gape, the lips, going down this way, up at the top, straight back in the middle, down at the bottom. So there'll be a little feather here like this. Little feather here like this, maybe 2 feathers crossing that. But you just want to have that texture because you're not going to see those individual feathers. Targeting my whites that I don't want, it's a black head, so I don't want it to be any whites in there, so I'll target those whites. Alright, so now down here, I can just make the lower part of the throat pretty dark because it's in shadow down there. So I'm going to get some more indigo and make the whole throat, oops, got a fat neck. Make that whole throat dark like that, and there's the neck separating from the shoulders here, separating from the ear patch or the cheek there, separating from the mustache here, and separating from the throat there. That's the breast. Okay, and then on the mantle, the back of the bird, just outlining it with texture, outlining it with texture, same technique, just making it dark. The blue and the purple come together, and that gives that sense of iridescence. And hardly any purple is going to show up on the underside, so I'm just going to go straight to indigo on the chest, on the breast. Okay, and here we can just fill in some feather details. So we got the drawing started, we got the head mapped out, all the important parts are there. Now we're going to put some feathers on the wing. Same shadow, indigo, alright, that where it separates from the shoulder feathers, the white shoulder feathers here, it's particularly dark, and it's actually a fat line of dark indigo coming there like that. And then you're going to have the feather groups in the wing wrist. This part of the wing that comes up over the breast here is the wrist, where the hand, literally the hand is under here, the hand bone's under here. All the flight feathers are coming off. This is the forearm, so it's folded like this, okay? This is the wrist, right here, okay? And off of the wrist you're going to have some feather groups that coming like this. That's the forward edge of the wrist. And these are what are called coverts. So there's small feathers covering the flight feathers, and they are laid down, it looks like there like that. I'm making it thicker at the base, okay? So there's another covert. Alright? So they're laid down like that in rows. What look like rows. Like that. Okay? And then the longer ones here, the greater coverts, going to be laid down, going down the wing like that. So there's a feather grouping, okay? You can blend in the shadow heaviest at the bottom here, and then sort of give texture, the individual feather to the individual covert feathers here. That would probably be an end of the coverts right there. Or you can first lay down some sort of shadow where it's blending up from the bottom towards the top, okay? But then we're just going to lay down some suggestion of the veins, the feather texture, which would be like that. I don't know if they can hear those birds on the... I have flycatcher up there now, an ash-throated flycatcher is calling. Just kind of... So there it is. You got the basics down, and you can sort of shadow this white from blue. Actually, I should have used my cobalt instead of my indigo, but that's okay. Just lightening it up. It doesn't have to be pure white, and then I can take some of that off. There we go. So it's not just white. And then I'll go in there and I'll erase my pencil lines and so forth. So that's done.
That's great. And we're almost at the top of the hour, actually.
Oh.
Speed drop.
I thought I had time to do 2. So it's a similar thing here, but you want to start. How much time do we have? 5 minutes?
We can go a little over. We can
Let's just go for 3 minutes. Let me just show you how to map this out.
I know I should have been keeping better time over here.
Oh wow, I
got
got lost.
in the art too.
All right, so I'm going to use a blue-green for the tail. Yeah, let's just get it started, and then you guys can finish it up at home, but there's lots of reference online. Start with the lights, just as we did with the head, right? And on the tail, I want to have a blue-green as my basis. And I'm mapping it out, just filling in the lines, so to speak, okay? And then I'm going to go with cobalt for my wings and purple for my head. So now on the wings is a pattern issue. You can see the white, it's beautiful. This bird is a beautiful bird. So on the wings you have, this is the scapular hair that's going to be white, right there like that. So this area here is white, okay? These feathers are all blue to the middle of the wing here like this. And over the primary coverts. So there's the pattern. That's the blue section, okay? And then I would switch to my pointed round, pick up my, probably indigo would be more appropriate at this point, but I'm just going to use the cobalt and keep going and sort of outline individual feathers. Now here, it should be pointier. I'm losing track of what I should be doing, which is like this. These are very thin, pointy feathers here. Okay. And then at the tips, I'll switch to indigo. You have a dark tip. Widest at the front edge. And then go back over. And then you can draw your coverts with this indigo as well. Okay. Now I'm going to switch to a purple quickly and then just call that a day. But I want to just show you the mapping of the colors, okay? So the rump is purple, leaving that white waistband. Body is purple. And then you can draw the details over the top of that to get your feather groupings right. The head is purple, leaving that yellow around the eye there like that, coming up into the beak. We did the head, so you know how to do the head now. And then quickly wash your brush, grab some lemon yellow, and suggest your magpie, yellow-billed magpie beak.
That's pretty impressive for like 5 minutes.
And then put the dark eye.
Wow. All right. Thank you so much for everyone who had the time to join in today. If you stuck around for the whole thing, that's awesome. Thank you for being here with us. If you joined a little bit halfway through, maybe closer to the end, don't worry about it at all. We're gonna have a full recording that will just be on our Facebook page afterwards, so you can watch it again and again from start to finish, slow it down. My name's Anna Marie, and I'm just so happy that we got to bring you another one of these virtual events to keep everyone engaged with nature, even while you're sheltering in place. It warms my heart. I like doing it, and it's really fun to see everyone in the comments. So, like I said, if it was your first time, I hope you join us for another one. If it was not your first time, keep coming back. Oh, excuse me. And that's it. Thank you again to Edward for joining us here today, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.
I forgot I had